In Matthew 5:16, Jesus said, "Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Um, Sad to say, I've heard from multiple sources that Christians are not the best employees around, and some people don't want to do work with employees because they don't work with Christian employees because they don't work very well. Honestly, that's a shame. If that's one of you, I encourage you to stop and don't quit giving God a bad name. Because if we are a Christian, God has called us to show our lights out as good purpose and good lights. I'm sorry, I'm messing all those words up. But God's purpose for us is to be like Jesus. And in business, that amounts to doing good. In business, we all want referrals. And what habits incline people to give us more business and refer us to others? Well, it's probably simpler than you think. And today I brought on James MacNeil, who has been a speaker for over 30 years. He's a coach, author, and podcast host. And we're going to talk about the habits that we need to create to help people refer business and to get repeat business. And so, James, welcome to our podcast today. And as we get started, let me know, what is one way that you have found to honor God in your business that other people may not know about?
Well, that's a great question. I think for me personally, it will come out in the what's called the 4 referability habits that we had discussed. That it's from a gentleman named Dan Sullivan. He calls himself the strategic coach. He's in Toronto, Canada, where I'm from. And for me, it's like from the beginning of my business as a speaker, I simply wanted to have no surprise but good surprise. So if I told you I was going to show up on that day at that time, I was going to be dressed appropriately, I was going to deliver a workshop, I was going to be respectful, I was going to, provide a handout, whatever I said I was going to do. I always wanted to deliver more than I promised and never less. So I had a simple motto of no surprise but good surprise. And what's horrible to say is that made me stand out. How hard is it to do what you said you're going to do?
Wow.
How hard is it to have a no surprise but good surprise policy as a professional on any level? And yes, it's for me, the fact that someone says I'm a Christian doesn't guarantee me anything other than by announcing that we have agreed we can hold each other to the same standard, that we can say, well, there's a book we can go to decide what's right and what's wrong. So we have a shared reference, but it doesn't mean anything else. I mean, if I didn't do business with Christians, I would be about $10 million ahead, safely, conservatively. So, so it's, and I'm not crying about it. I'm merely saying it's not that hard to be impressive in a world where people are immature, unqualified. They do not keep their word. They do not honor. They might be needy or greedy or unwell. And I'm not trying to accuse or judge or talk about someone's better, but it's unfortunate that it's easy to stand out with some simple principles. So that's why, when we were talking about it, I thought these are pretty simple. They're not unbiblical. They align with what we claim to believe and want to live. So yeah, I think inside of the 4 referability habits, almost maybe not almost all problems are solved, but it sure is helpful.
Sure. And as you're talking to me about that, I've had a number of W-2 jobs, and I know I've been at some that they give you a bonus for showing up to work. I'm like, are you serious?
Wow.
Your bonus just to show up to work. It's like, but that's the whole thing of if you show up to work and do your job and don't play on your phone, you get a raise. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, that should be a no-brainer. But yeah, we live in a fallen world, and people don't always have the same work ethic as we should be, as in days past. But
yes.
Well, James, give us a little background of how God has led you in business to where you are today.
Oh, wow. Well, God took me from the guttermost, maybe not to the uttermost, but I was dead in the water. I would have been literally dead or in prison within 6 months of when God got me when I was 19. I came from a troubled home, drama and trauma, and unwellness and financial challenges and all of that. I have ADHD, dyslexia, obsessive compulsive disorder, complex PTSD. I couldn't speak in sentences until I was 9 years old, and I couldn't read until I was 21. I have no college or university. I was a janitor, and only by God's direction did I move from there to anything else. And yeah, I was so depressed. I was finding a way to self-terminate at the time that God got a hold of me. And I figured if I just ran with the wrong crowd long enough, they'd take care of it. Dangerous behaviors and so on. And
Sure.
so yeah, I cried out. God said, I love you. And then that was the beginning. And I had no idea that I would, just by listening to, teachers and preachers, audio cassettes and so on, because I was just learning to read at that time, that it would get into me in such a way that when provoked, I could actually speak in a way that was helpful and insightful to people. I never thought I could be a speaker. And then when that happened, then the whole vault was blown open. And then I just wanted to keep my word and do simple things right, and it served me well. So, yep, that's my story.
Wow, your story, you're sticking to it, huh? Very
Amen.
good. That's very interesting how God is used, going from nothing to all what you're doing right now.
Mm,
I read a book many years ago called "Delight Your Customers," and one of the
yeah.
principles in there was basically treat your customers as if they were your first customer, not your last customer. It's basically the simple things that it takes to delight your customers, such as a
Mm,
checkout clerk just smiles and say, have a good day,
yes.
versus being grumpy when they check you out. Just simple things that are free that we could do that makes our clients feel better. And so we're talking about being referable and repeat
Mm,
business. So go ahead and give us a
yep.
few. You said there's 4 different principles there. What are
Yes,
those
sir.
4 different principles? And then we'll dig into what they are.
Yeah. So the first one is simple, show up on time, which is something I did not do today. So David is being very kind to me. He isn't telling you that I blew it on point number 1 of what I promised to share. It's very embarrassing, but David is a kind and gracious soul. So we're here. But to show up on time, pretty simple. Second, do what you say. Do what you say you're going to do. Third is finish what you start. It's a big deal. And then lastly, say please and thank you. Just don't
Hmm.
take people for granted. Don't take customers for granted. Don't take staff for granted. Don't take a manager for granted. Simply live in a state of gratitude, which is, to me, a spiritual foundation of a connection to God. We can get caught up in past tension, future tension, present tension, or we can be in present peace, which comes from a state of gratitude to say, God, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for this. Otherwise, we could trigger a negative, a needy, greedy, selfish victim mentality. And so just gratitude is huge. Say please and thank you. That one really lands heavily for me. And to be referable changes everything. With my speaking career, I had one client and that exploded my business until
Hmm.
from that client I got 3 other clients, and they're all big banks. It's just,
Sure.
and then from that, I was able to sign multi-million-dollar contracts, build 3 7-figure businesses, and it's all from one door that opened. And
Hmm.
if we will take care of that one will lead us to the many. Like the sheep, you just take care of the one, and treat everyone as the one. It's Yeah, for me, it's very powerful. So again, there, show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, and then finish what you start, and then simply say please and thank you. I'm guessing for you, these resonate fairly simply. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, they're very simple to do. But I guess I want to dig a little deeper because it
Yeah.
may seem obvious to us, but
Hmm.
give us an example of why it's important to show up on time, or what happens if you don't show up on time, kind of
Sure.
thing.
Well, I was in my earlier years, and I remain a big fan of Stephen Covey.
Yep.
And that's Stephen M.R. Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then Stephen R. Kelly, I believe is Covey is his son. Anyways, his son wrote The Speed of Trust based
Yep.
on his father's work. And when it comes to building trust, basically when you meet a new person, you don't know if you can or should trust them. Some people give people a certain amount of grace. Some people
Sure.
don't. It's hard to know. Everyone has their own start point. However, the first time you make a promise, the first time you say you're going to do something, now with the outcome of that first promise, they now know you're 100% trustworthy or 100% untrustworthy. And so, as simple as show up on time. I'll be there at 3. I'm going to send that document today. I'll have someone call you about that. That first promise is now 100% evidence that you're completely trustworthy or completely untrustworthy. So making and keeping commitments is the fastest path to building trust, rapport, respect, and a flourishing relationship.
Absolutely. And I don't know, I've read a lot of books, so I don't know where it's from. It may have been from The Speed of Trust, but he mentioned about if you are talking to somebody and you say, let me get back, you basically say, let me get back to you. I'll call you again in a half hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have the answer, he goes, just hang up the phone and say, I'll give you a call back. You hang up the phone and then you call them back.
Yes.
Because so many times people say, I'll give you a call back, and they don't. And that is just a quick way of establishing rapport, establishing I trust that I will call you back. And it's the same thing what you just said, showing up on time, and the simple thing you can do to increase trust that way.
Yeah. And with that one, I mean, I would only do it if I needed to double check something before I provided the information, because otherwise it would be disingenuous if I have the answer and I withhold it just so I can show how trustworthy I am. It's an odd kind of a thing. But I understand the point that was made in that book you're referring to, that author understood. Find a way to make and keep a promise as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And that principle, 100%. Amen.
Yep. Very good. Do what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to trust when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it? What happens?
Well, people have to form their own opinions as to why, right? It could be, did I get it wrong? Did I not pay attention? I thought they had made that promise. So a person could question themselves, but even that could hinder the bond. But then if it's like, no, I'm sure they promised that, then they have to make up a story as to why you didn't deliver. Is it because you lied in the first place? Something happened, uncontrollable. And so then they say, oh, you're just like that person that, was always doing this. And who knows what can of worms you've opened just by simply not doing what you said you're going to do, because a person is now going to interpret that any way they do. And one of the challenges is people are overwhelmed. We have stimulation overload, information overload. We have a fundamental culture of distrust, which is an adversarial, a fundamentally adversarial marketplace where everyone's out to get as much as they can and give as little as they can, and that's sad. And inside of that, the person's just going to make up whatever story they're going to make up. And because they're overwhelmed, they don't feel they owe you the opportunity to explain themselves, to explain yourself. They're not going to say, "Hey, Bob, I didn't see the email that you said you were going to send. I'm not sure if you sent it or not. It might be caught in spam or something happened. I don't know, but can you help me out? And if you even if you have sent it, could you resend it?" So that's the most gracious thing you can hope for. But how many people have the time and the capacity to be that respectful, to give you that chance to catch up, to make up, to address it? Most people, when character is questioned, people decrease their dependency and increase their distance until they're out of your life. And so that one thing could be the last time you're going to have a chance to make a promise to that person. You just don't know how profoundly it's going to impact them and your potential relationship. So, and I don't mind when people blow it. Like what I do is I personally, when I blow it, I just let people know. It's like, wow, I'm not going to make it, or I didn't make it, or, oh my gosh, I blew it. Or can you like, just to be humble enough to say, I'm going to take ownership and responsibility. And that's another thing people blow it on. So very few people are able to take responsibility. Very few people are comfortable to communicate honestly, openly, respectfully, and directly. So missing that commitment might be your last shot with them.
Sure. And I'm thinking of like service industries, a plumber, electrician, whatever, who they said, oh, I'm going to be at your house between 1 and 3. If you can't, really, you should contact them saying, hey, we got backed up. It's going to be 4. And don't just not show up, because that could get to the point where if they didn't call, I'm done. I'm just going somewhere else. And so for repeat business. And I mean, just it's good for people. It's especially good, critical for businesses, because that's that whole trust part of it. Yes. What about that? The third one you said,
finish what you start.
Finish what you start.
Yeah.
Finish what you start. Do you have a story talking about that? What happens if you don't finish what you start?
Well, I have that with many people with whom I've done business, both as, on both sides of the business equation, whether buying or selling or service providing or needing a service, that they say they're going to, build this, create that, and then they just don't. And when they do that repeatedly, they continue to not finish what they start. It forces me to question, the integrity there, because biblically we're taught that if you're going to build something, like, count the cost, think about what your yes is, because every yes is a no, right? If I say I'm going to build that means I'm taking time away from family and business and whatever, my fitness routine, to accomplish X. And if I keep taking on commitments and telling people I'm going to do these things, and then I don't, that's screaming to people that I cannot be trusted. It's a referability habit challenge. It's you want to be a person who makes as few promises as possible and keeps them all, right? So it's like if that person says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Actually, I'm going to share a personal story, if I may, on this.
Okay, go for it.
This is one of the chronic things with my father, and he struggled with substance abuse and violence and so on. And so he had more than one challenge, but one of them was he didn't keep his word at all. I have almost no childhood memories, but I remember I was maybe 4 years old, and he announced, hey, kids, we're going to get ready to go. We're going to go see the Harlem Globetrotters. Remember the Harlem Globetrotters?
Yes.
He said, they're here in Toronto. We're going to go, and we're going to watch the Harlem Globetrotters. And the other kids, I'm the youngest of four. The other kids were running around getting dressed, and I'm 4 years old, and I'm just sitting on the couch. And my sister came to me. She says, what are you doing? I said, nothing. She says, Dad said, get ready. We're going to see the Harlem Globetrotters. And I remember this. I remember very little, but I remember this. I said, if Dad said it, that's how we know it isn't going to happen. By 4, I knew he could not be trustworthy to keep his word ever. At 4, I had lost complete hope in my father. And that's pretty tragic. And so I told my son, when I had my son, I said, I will almost never promise, but if I do make a promise, heaven and earth can fall away, and I'm still keeping that promise. Like, when I promise, you know it. And so I'd say, let's say we're going to go see this movie, on Saturday. And he learned. He said, do you promise? I said, no, that's just my intention. I was very careful that by the time I said promise, virtually nothing but the power of God could stop me. It's like, no, this I can promise, because I wanted my son to know his father would keep his word, because sometimes it's really important. And so that was a foundation I knew was important.
Yes, that's huge. That's huge. And especially, like you're saying, for a father-son relationship.
Yeah.
Because that affects our relationship with God too. Because if our earthly father doesn't keep our promises, we relate that to our Heavenly Father. And our Heavenly Father keeps his promises. And so, yeah, that's very good. It's interesting. As you're talking, I remember one guy I met that we were supposed to do some work together, and he said yes to everybody. He said yes all the time. And it didn't take too long to realize that he kept saying yes, but he didn't follow through on all these things. And just like, I didn't know if he was going to do stuff or not, because he just said yes to so many, and he had to backtrack on most of them. Yeah. So, but it's not a referability thing that I want to refer business to.
A person like that only keeps the last promise. It's the last person who gets to them that gets the actual time, right? So it's like he could say yes to 20 people that he'll call them at 5 o'clock, but it's the 20th that gets the call, because it's this, I am uncomfortable with discomfort. I don't have a comfort with discomfort. And so I'll make whatever promise makes it more comfortable for me and for you, without counting the cost of fulfillment. And that's very unfortunate that a person has such a limited comfort with discomfort, rather than saying, I want to say yes, but I'm not able to say yes today, or I want to say yes, but I can't, or tomorrow, or whatever. And people don't like it when we tell the truth sometimes because it's not what they prefer, but it is the only way to maintain trust, whether it's comfortable or not.
Yeah, all those things you said are good. I just wonder sometimes, I don't think people think that in their head, but it's what you said is true. But I don't think that those thoughts probably go through their head. But yeah, it's something introspective to think about.
Yeah.
I find interesting that these 4 things, 3 of them based upon trust. 3 of them are solely based upon trust. Do you trust the business or the owner? The last one is basically graciousness.
Yes.
Saying please and thank you.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Well, it's a fundamental of our human nature, right? Reciprocity. Reciprocity is one of the most core tenets of trust and everything else. And so, for example, how many times, I don't know if this happens to you, but I've been driving around this neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. I'm from Toronto. I'm visiting here. And I cannot tell you how many times people walk in front of my car, counting on me stopping, and they don't feel that it's reasonable to even look at me, to give me a head nod, a wave, or a thank you. It's just, I will move in front of a moving vehicle, thousands of pounds, and all of the responsibility is on you to not hit me. And when you graciously do that, I owe you nothing. And I'm thinking, what happened to society? What happened to please and thank you?
Yes.
You know, it's standard. You know, I remember if you go into a coffee shop, it should start with good morning, not what can I get you. It should start with some kind of a softening of the moment to first build the bridge, then send the truckload of communication. But start with the bridge. Please, thank you, good morning. It doesn't take much for an appropriate bridge building moment. And please and thank you for coming. I appreciate your time. It doesn't cost you anything, and it could mean all the difference. Just to be gracious, to have gratitude. I like the Spanish language. Gracias is grace. That's what it means. It means grace. Gracias. Muchas gracias. You've given me great grace. And I just love that there's that culture has embraced it as how to say thank you, which means unmerited favor, undeserved kindness, and I appreciate you. Please and thank you. It's shocking and sad that that's not standard anymore.
It is. But yeah, it's something that you have to teach your children to do, and then continue going throughout their life. And yeah, no matter what level of business you're at, owner, worker, whatever, or customers, saying thank you, it's that last bond of, I don't know, it's graciousness, kindness, both ways. It's just interesting. Is there these are all good steps, all great. Is there anything we can do to remember them so we don't forget them? Because we're talking about right now, we remember them today, and tomorrow we're going to forget them. Is there anything we can do to remind ourselves?
You could write them down, put them on the mirror. But for me, it's like, don't forget that don't be a jerk. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's like, don't be a jerk. Like it's
sure.
It's how did we forget that? You know, it's fundamentals to humanity. And fortunately for us, we have, you know, the Bible to give us principles and wisdom and you know, checks and balances. I just think, like, how do you expect, it seems unwise to me to take opportunities and people for granted and to treat them delicately. You know, it's like, I've got one friend, nurture it, you know, nurture it. Don't say, I wish I had more friends, and ignore the one you have. And I think that's one of the things that's the distinction between egoic and spiritually connected. You know, when a person is spiritually connected, they focus on what they do have, what they do know, what they can do, who's with them. You know, it's like, I focus on what is, and the ego only focuses on what is not, what I don't have, what I don't know, what I can't do, and who's not with me. And so the ego is the enemy of connection. In fact, the ego is desperate to live in a perpetual state of separation and desperation. And so it can't be grateful because it's only thinking about what it doesn't have. I worked with the world's most powerful banks, and one of the things that we found in the research is the number one reason someone leaves their financial planner, advisor, whatever, is because of apathy and neglect. Apathy and neglect. Just don't care. Don't pay attention. It's like, I got your money. Why should I talk to you anymore? I've already got what I wanted, and that's all I'm here for. And it's just so sad that we're only interested often as a society in what we don't have, what we don't know, what we cannot do, and who's not with us, rather than being grateful and a good steward for all that we've been given. I may not have 10 friends, but I have one. And I'm going to be grateful, and I'm going to invest in that relationship. Some people say, why don't I have any friends? Well, ask that question slowly. There might be an answer. Be friendly. Let's start with that. And then to invest in what we do have. I want to be a better steward of all of my belongings. I want to take better care of things. I want to take better care of money, my health, my talent, and to focus on what I do have rather than only chasing what I don't have. And these things, to me, can be all the difference in making you the kind of person everyone wants to work with, because you're grateful and respectful, and you work hard, you do what you say. It's not that hard to build an empire on some fundamentals that are very clear in the wisdom literature, and I think they should go without saying.
Yep. Just being Christ-like, being kind, love your neighbor as yourself is bottom line what it's doing.
Golden rule.
Do you have any final thoughts, a final parting challenge to my audience today that you would like to spur them on with?
So I'd encourage everyone to just remember the business of business is to profitably solve problems. Right? The business of business is profitably solving problems. If you're not helping solve people's problems, it's unlikely that you will be profitable. And we profit when we deserve it. And the word deserve means from service. And so if you're not earning enough, it's likely you're not serving enough. So from service, I earn. And if I'm not being of service, the evidence shows up in my balance sheet. And so how can I serve more? How can I serve better? How can I solve more problems? This is a servant mindset that then unlocks the vault. That's to say, and one of the first things I learned in Spanish was "Estoy aquí para servir." I am here to serve. And I say, look, in a non-Christian crowd, I'll say my master mentor rather than, Jesus said. But my master mentor said, I have come not to be served, but to serve. And that's good enough for me. And so as long as I remember I'm here to serve, and when I serve wisely, I'm a good steward and I profitably solve problems, then I deserve all of the blessings that come from that. But to assume somebody owes me, God or anyone else, that begins a very dangerous descent. And so to say, look, I have strengths and abilities, competence and capacities. I have time, opportunity, and connections, and I'm going to look at those to see how I can profitably solve problems in the world around me and the needs of the people that I interact with. And when we get that right, we're showing Christ. When we get that right, we're shining a light, and people say, "I want what you got." It's a gentle answer turneth away wrath. It's like, I want to be the most gracious, respectful, assertive, clear communicator in my life. I want to be the person who goes the extra mile. I want to be the person who, I keep my word when it costs me a fortune. I keep my word when it's not fair, when it's not right. But I want to be that person who keeps his word. I want to be that person that says, I am not that needy, greedy, selfish, short-sighted, self-centered, sniveling twit that I once was. By the grace of God, I'm now a man, and I'm the man more and more that God made me to be. And I want to shine that light and earn those relationships, earn that success by profitably solving problems. I think for me, that's best kind of stuff I'd like to remind myself of and anyone who's listening.
All right, that was very good. I love that. Serve and deserve. That's neat. James, thank you so much for your time and encouragement
Thank you,
today.
sir.
And if you're looking to go deeper into what James does in his work and his coaching and all that, there'll be links in the show notes to get in contact with him. And I want to remind you to remember that your business represents the great God you serve. So build a business that's worthy of God's name and in a way that honors him. Bye for now.